Hi, this is going to be a video series of ultimately on kind of how to get started with CATIA and get through all the basics of part design initially, and then we'll move on into surface design, assembly, and others. Currently, we're using CATIA V5. Really, it's not super relevant because everything's essentially the same. Little things change from time to time. This year we might be moving over to CATIA 3D Experience, they call it, and that should be looks to be somewhat of a change. For right now, this is where we're at. So to get started, this is your star field background, typical way to begin CATIA. If you look up here at the top, what you see is a list of all your different workbenches. Inside of each of these workbenches is going to be a pile of tools, right? A pile of icons that you need to learn. It kind of speaks to how large CATIA itself is, where most programs are essentially part design, maybe some sketchers, drafting, assembly, maybe even some sheet metal. CATIA has a lot more. The other side of that coin might be that the interface is pretty antiquated. I think it is more or less what you get used to, right? So we're going to go here to part design. When you start it up, typically the first thing it's going to ask you is, do you want to name your part, right? A lot of us just hit the OK button, skip this, and that's fine. What you find out later in a class that I teach called Design Theory, we talk about how very important it is that you name every part and quite frequently every element of your part as you go along, right? The rest of this we might talk about later. Let's keep things simple. This is supposed to be just sort of an overview of CATIA, what you do with it, where the buttons are, interface, etc. Right? So we'll leave this at part 1 right now. Okay, so this gets you to the part design workbench. Now the thing about this to understand is this is the part design workbench. But the name implies that this is, where you make a part, right? So a lot of people that maybe use other 3D design programs say, well, yeah, I can make parts too. The part design workbench might have been better named just solid modeling. Things in here are going to be square-ish with rounded edges. There's not a lot of surface design type features here. If you want surface design, you're going to end up going to either wireframe and surfacing, or if you can afford the license, generative shape design, right? Okay, so as a rough idea, what you see here is your plane system, right? To help you focus, there is your XY plane here. Here's another one, and here's another one. As you click here, it will light up over here in your specification tree. If you click in your tree, then it lights up over here. Same thing, right? This is a part body. This is where all your solid features are going to go. Later, we'll talk about geometrical sets and how they're used and why they're really actually very important, right? Okay, so moving on. If you look over here on the right-hand side, this is where you're usually going to find the brunt of your useful icons, right? Down here along the bottom, you usually find things for how to change your view and measure items and such, right? We'll be sticking over here for a little while, right? And like I said, on the left-hand side, this is called the specification tree. As we start to make a part, this will start to fill up with all the items that we've used along the way. You could kind of say it's a history, but it's a lot more interactive than most history type based systems, like say Photoshop or something, right? So first thing you want to do is we have to pick a plane to work on, right? In order to draw a two-dimensional shape that we can extrude out into a three-dimensional shape, you need to have a place to start. You can't just pick out here in space somewhere because it doesn't know exactly where to place it. It could be a million miles back there, or it could be right up in front of your face. So we'll pick this flat, let's say this is the floor, the XY plane, and then over here, this is going to be one of your main icons. This is Sketch, or it takes you to what they call the Sketcher workbench, right? So you hit it, and it opens this up, right? So now what you're seeing is this grid pattern, but you're really just looking straight down onto the part or the work area. Later, as you see more of this product develop, you'll actually still see that here, right? And just to show you, you can turn your grid. It looks probably kind of weird, but we're still in the same 3D space. We just have a grid to work on. Then if you want to flatten it out, down here, this is kind of a handy icon. This is your normal view. You click it and it will flatten everything back out. Okay, so we look over here and we say, well, what do we want to do? We want to make, how about a circle, right? So this is pretty standard issue stuff. So you pick the circle, and when you come out here, what you're going to do is you're going to click to start it and then click to end it. A lot of regular graphic programs will have you click and drag. If you're used to that, that'll probably take a little bit to break that habit, right? So you start right here in the middle. You'll notice that as you move over one line and over another line here, it snaps to it, and it will show up. It'll show an icon right above my mouse cursor there that shows that you're snapped onto a line. That's that little circle with the line through it. If you get down here into the middle, you'll see a dot, right? That says that we're anchored right smack on the origin point. So we click. I've let go of the mouse, right? I just clicked left, right? And I drag it out here and click again, right? So we say, okay, it's about that size. If I click on the background, which should be a habit to get into, you'll see that it turns white because it's not selected anymore, right? Kind of a good habit to click the background before you select something, because if you were still selecting something that you didn't want, the thing that you click over here will affect the thing that you've selected, right? So I'm going to pick this icon right here, and this is constraints, right? So we pick that, click on the sketch, and it brings out the dimension, right? If you're used to something like SolidWorks, you'll notice it doesn't pop up automatically to have you name it. So we double click it, and we say, okay, I want this to be just 5 inches. And it brings it down. The reason it is turned green, this is a really nice feature. It means that the whole thing is completely constrained, or what CATIA calls ISO constrained. You can't move it. If you grab an edge here and try to wiggle it around, it's locked in space. It's locked by the diameter, and it's locked by the fact that we started right smack in the center. You don't see anything telling you that it's locked in the center. That was an automatic constraint that gets made because we snapped to that point in the beginning. Okay, so you come over here. This is the other icon to remember where it's at. This is your exit, your workbench, or exit Sketcher, right? So if I click this, it will take me out of that 2D work environment, bring me back into the 3D workspace. Again, it's selected here, so I click on the background, and then I can see there's the circle that I drew, right? Now, I think it's important to understand. Students in the past, a lot of times they want to click in here to try to grab this circle to try to make it bigger. This isn't a disc, it's a circle. It's more like a thread. Think of it like a thread, right? So if I want to pick it, I'm going to pick just that actual line itself, right? So what I want to do is I want to make this thing bigger. In CATIA part design lingo, this is a pad, and that's this icon right over here, right? So it says pad when it hovers out. In most of your 3D design programs, engineering design programs, this would be called extrude, right? So I pick the pad, the window opens up. We'll be talking about a lot of these nuances, the other buttons of these windows in kind of extra videos as time goes by, right? So all I want to do right now is pick the thing that I want to pad, and it'll show you kind of a representation of what it's going to be doing, and then how tall I'm going to make it. So it's going to be 0.5, we're just going to say ½ an inch here, right? There it is. So yay, we made a disc, right? So that's pretty much the regular default first thing that people do, right? So next thing we're going to do is put some holes in it and probably maybe round some edges. So we have this part now that we made. We have this disc. What it's given us is a couple more options as far as what to select in order to go into the 2D environment. If I move it like this, you can see here's that plane again. I could pick just that plane to go into. I could pick this bottom face. I could pick this top face. The rule is you have to have a flat surface, a true and perfect flat surface. I can't pick this edge here, this curved surface right here, and go into Sketcher. It won't let me, right? So what I'm going to do is just show you. I'm just going to pick the top of this, right? Later when we get further down the road, there's a lot of decisions based upon a lot of decisions on which surface, which plane should I pick, so that I make the part in a proper way that myself or someone else in the future can edit well, right? That becomes a pretty big topic. So I'll pick the face, I'll pick Sketcher, and we go into the environment. We can zoom back and forth. I pick another circle, I snap it to the center, I bring it out, call it good, constrain it. This one, let's say, make it 3.5. It's green again because it's ISO constrained. Exit workbench. If you look, you can see that your sketch is on that surface. I can now come over here, I can hit the pad again, I can pick my sketch, set the size, hit OK. There we go. So we'll do it again. Now I can pick this top face, go into here, and we can pretty much just do this over and over and over again, right? Pick this, pick that. Notice how I didn't have to pick it because it was already selected when I went for this icon over there. 2.5, exit, pad it up about 1 inch. There's our shape. This is a pretty good practice right here, is just start picking spots, adding things to it. Pad the bottom, make a shape on the bottom, pad it out, make something on the top here, make something right here in this little ledge, add to it, right? So now we're going to pick the top, make another circle, but this time we're going to cut a hole through it. So we'll make this 1.5, exit out. Now this is your new icon. This is the pocket icon. You hit it. It's the same thing as the pad. You'll see this all throughout these icons. These are sketch-based features that we'll be looking at here. They all have their opposite, so to speak. So the pad takes a sketch and adds to it. The pocket takes a sketch and it will subtract. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, instead of making it a dimension like we did, I'm going to say up to last. What up to last gets you is it will go all the way through the part, right? So for SolidWorks people, it's like through all, right? So hit this, hit OK. Now we have a hole. So that's pads and pockets. We'll continue through the rest of the icons in the same fashion, and then later, as time goes by, we'll create supplemental videos digging into the nuances of each of the windows we looked at. For example, in our pocket here, what do these mean, right? What do these checkboxes do? What's this more button about right here? And, you know, wow, holy crap, look what happens if we right-click inside of any of these different text fields. So thank you for watching. Next up will be the shaft tool and groove.